He knocked off. How long was James Oberstar in the halls of Congress, Chip?
He was actually, as a representative, he was 36 years, but 12 years prior to that, he was the chief of staff of the previous congressman, a gentleman by the name of Congressman Blatnick.
And
so he'd actually been on the Hill for 48 years.
Been on the Hill for 48 years, lived in D.C., as I recall.
Yep.
Also, therefore, that seat had been in Democratic hands at least 60 years.
63 years. Yeah, the last Republican was voted out of office in 1947. So William Pettinger was
along
his name.
Comes Chip Cravaack, knocks him off in 2010 with the help of the Tea Party. Is that movement still alive out there?
You know, the movement is still alive, and, you know, people have a great misnomer about what the Tea Party is. The Tea Party are people that believe in the Constitution of the United States, which I swore to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's a group of people that believe we need to pay our bills to bring down the national debt. We should not, in my opinion, and I haven't seen one economist that can tell me any different, that if you raise taxes, you are going to cost jobs in this economy, especially in this economy. And a lot of people, they like to compare it to the Clinton administration. I say, really, can you really say that the type of economy that we have right now is the same type of economy that was going on during the Clinton administration? The NASDAQ rose at unbelievable, I think it was 500 to 4,500 in a matter of like 5 years because of the tech bubble. And along with that was the housing bubble. Completely different economies. I think it was Bernie Marcus, who's the former CEO of Home Depot. He actually came out and said, even a brain-dead economist knows if you raise taxes, it's going to cost jobs. So, you know, the Tea Party is alive. It is well. It is working very hard to make sure that we get back to our roots of paying our bills and maintaining the Constitution.
Do you think it's alive nationwide? I mean, you see a lot of polls. NBC Wall Street Journal poll today had Mitt Romney behind by 5 points. You can't turn on MSNBC without them guffawing on how Romney's campaign is imploding. Where do you see the national race?
I personally see Mitt Romney doing very well. I think a lot of people. I mean, look at the alternative. The alternative couldn't be more diverse. I mean, you see the president and having the largest deficits of any president in the last 4 years. You see a Senate that hasn't passed a budget in over 1,200 days. You see 1 in 2 people being either considered low income or poverty level. The most amount of people ever on unemployment, or not on unemployment, but on food stamps, the longest amount of unemployment for the highest amount of period since the Great Depression. I mean, that is the president's record. It's not, you know, the president had a shot. You know, I think it's time to change course. Mitt Romney is somebody that has, and not only Mitt Romney, but Paul Ryan is now on this ticket. And I was very impressed when Governor Romney picked Paul Ryan. And the reason why that is because, you know, the governor could have picked some shiny objects, some people that really had much higher name recognition, or he could have picked someone who helped him with a certain goat, like Rubio. Yeah. But he picked Paul Ryan, who is the guy who has that knows the budget better than anybody else on the Hill. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, you have to admit that.
Well, and he was very specific on the budget, so he was a moving target. And Romney is apparently not shying away from that, and he doesn't appear to be shying away from his comments, which I think were spot on, that we've got a dependency crisis in America.
Well, you know, he might have said it a little clumsily. I mean, we've all been there, you know, where you think you're surrounded by, you know, a group of friends. You don't think somebody's got a video camera on you, so you might not weigh your words as carefully as you should. But the thing is, if I was in Obama camp, I would be focusing on not so much what he said and how he said it, and so I'd be focusing on that rather than what was actually meant. What was actually meant is 47% of Americans don't have income high enough to qualify to be pay taxes. He also meant that, you know, we have to start creating opportunity for these individuals to help lift them up. And, you know, it's just disappointing that they're focusing on that instead of focusing on what's important and getting the economy rolling again.
But, I mean, if you take a look at all of this is not attributable to a lazy economy. I mean, we have steadily in this country and this has long been a liberal strategy, trying to hook more and more people onto student loan subsidies, onto corporate bailouts, Detroit, Wall Street, onto export-import bank bailouts, onto Fannie and Freddie Mac guarantees, onto food stamps, onto welfare, call it what you will. We are a nation now that thinks there are certain things we are entitled to, and that is a cultural crisis in America.
Well, I mean, look, the government took over all the student loans. Where does that, I mean, they took over a sector of an economy. Now, here's the scary part. 24 to 25% of our spending is government spending per our GDP. Now, in addition to that 25%, 11%, an additional 11% out of the private sector gets sucked into permitting fees, those kind of things as well. So that's
regulatory tax, right? Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, you talk about Obamacare. That's 1/6 of the economy. Another 16%. We are already at 52% of the government owning our GDP. Government controlled.
And we've got 60% of the American people that get more from a government benefit than they pay in taxes. I mean, I think what Romney was saying, and I didn't think he was that inelegant about it, but I think what he's saying is, look, if you don't have a financial stake in the system, you are headed towards unsustainability. If you think you can perpetually tax somebody else to game the system, sooner or later those people run out.
What did Margaret Thatcher say? Pretty soon you run out of other people's money.
Precisely.
And the thing is, only 50% of Americans that file actually pay taxes.
Right.
So only 50% pay taxes.
And it was 84% during the Reagan administration.
Well, even more. The bottom 50%, in essence, I think it's pay 2.7% of the taxes. That means the top 50% pay 97.3% of the taxes. The top 25% of the top 50% pay 86% of the taxes in this country.
Right, and and that is just simply unsustainable because
it's completely unsustainable. And we have a broken tax code.
And morally, everybody ought to have a stake in the system. Everybody ought to say, you know what, I'm going to get, but I'm going to contribute. And I think that's really the cultural crisis I was thinking of. Hey, listen, I've got to go, but thanks so much, Congressman Chip Cravaack.
Always a pleasure.
Minnesota's 8th Congressional District. What's your website for the campaign?
VoteChip.org. Come and join us.
Pretty straightforward. VoteChip.org. There you go. Chip Cravaack, thanks so much for stopping by. More on Social Security, you bet, when we come back. Stick around.